Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So March 18th, 2024, in Goloka, Hillsborough, North Carolina, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 50, Text 45. Tam drisva chintayat Krishna Sankarshana sahayavan Aho yadunam vrijjinam Praptam yubhayato mahat. Tam, him, dristva, sing, achintayat, thought, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Sankarshana, by Lord Balaram, Sahayavan, assisted, Aho, Yadunam, for the Yadus, Vrijjinam, a problem, Praptam, arrived, he, indeed, Ubhayataha, from both sides, from Kalyavana and also from Jarasandha. Mahat, great, BBT translation. When Lord Krishna and Lord Sankarshan saw Kalyavana, Krishna thought about the situation and said, a great danger now threatens the Yadus from two sides. BBT purport. We may note here that although Sri Krishna had defeated Jarasandha 17 times against tremendous odds, he did not immediately annihilate the army of Kalyavana, thus keeping intact the benediction granted to Gargya by Lord Shiva, as explained in the previous purport. So what was that benediction? Anybody remember? Drishtaprabhu? That would, exactly, that his son would cause difficulties for the Vrishnis, so therefore Krishna had to allow his son to cause difficulties for the Vrishnis. Okay, we're going to look at the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who just simply says, out of affection for the Yadavas, Krishna worried. The Yadus have calamity on both sides from Kalyavana and Jarasandha. Okay, so he mentions that Krishna is worried and that he has affection. I'm going to look at Srila Sanatana Goswami's, which is practically the same as Srila Jiva Goswami's. Playing the role of a human, he spoke to Balaram because he wanted to take Balarama's permission in moving the Yadus far from Mathura. Aho expresses lamentation. He means certainly. So here we have Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is talking about worry, and Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami is talking about lamentation, and then also consulting with Balaramaji. Tam drisva chintayat Krishna sankarshana sahayavan aho yadunam vrijjinam praptam yupayatom mahat. When Lord Krishna and Lord Sankarshan saw Kalyavana, Krishna thought about the situation and said, a great danger now threatens the Yadus from two sides. And Krishna book is basically the same thing. So here we see that Krishna experiences a variety of emotions in pleasing his devotees. So what devotees is he trying to please here? Who's he trying to please? The Yadus. And then also he's trying to please Lord Shiva, who gave the benediction, and who's he talking to? He's talking to Balaram. Why is he talking to Balaram? Because Balaram's the older brother. So he wants to take permission. Srila Sanatana Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami says he wants to take permission from his older brother, so he's following proper etiquette. Right? Like one time I was upset about something at the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, and I tried to fix the situation for many, many years to no avail. And then I was speaking to Burjan Prabhu about it. I said, Burjan Prabhu, there's this thing going on here, it's really disturbing. And I've talked to the temple presidents and the GBC, and they all agree with me, but they don't do anything. And he said, well, go talk to Balaram. And I said, why Balaram? And he said, well, everybody's crowded on Radhashyam's altar, but this is actually Krishna Balaram temple. I said, okay, but why Balaram? He said, because he's the older brother, so he's in charge. So Krishna wants to please his older brother, and one more person here he's trying to please, who's also his devotee, which is a very funny situation. Gargamuni. Gargamuni is also a pure devotee, so it's interesting. I mean, in that, it was more yesterday's verse. But the idea that Gargamuni got so insulted, right? He was called a eunuch, and when the Yadus laughed at it, he decided he wanted to hurt the Yadus, even though he's the priest of the Yadu dynasty. So he decided he wanted someone who would bring terror to the Yadus. That's another topic. But anyway, Krishna wanted to please. So he wanted to please the Yadus. He wanted to please Lord Shiva, who gave the benediction. Generally, when his devotees give a benediction, Krishna doesn't want to mess with it. You've seen this, right, in the Shastras? Like Lord Brahma gives a benediction to Hiranyakashipu, and the Lord wants to kill Hiranyakashipu, but he doesn't want to mess with Lord Brahma's benediction because he wants people to trust his devotees. So if people know, well, the devotee says something and then Krishna is just going to do whatever he likes, it's not going to work out very well. So he wants to please Lord Shiva, he wants to please Gargamuni, who want to terrorize the Yadus, and he wants to please Lord Balaram by showing him respect, by asking his permission. And in this regard, he's experiencing, according to Srila Sanatana Goswami, with the word aho. We can maybe go up to the Sanskrit. Yeah, with this word aho, which can just mean kind of oh, but Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami saying this word aho indicates lamentation. So I thought it kind of interesting that the Lord is Satchit Ananda, he's full of bliss, and we generally think of lamentation and bliss as being polar opposites. It's one of the things you learn when you're like 5, 6 years old in school and you do exercises on opposites. Do you all remember doing things like that? Up, down, left, right, happy, sad. So if you're sad, you're not happy. If you're happy, you're not sad. But actually this lamentation is given as one of the what's called Vyavichari Bhavs by Srila Rupa Goswami. So I wanted to look at the Vyavichari Bhavs in general and this lamentation in particular, and see at one of the symptoms of lamentation is making plans to rectify the situation. So then I wanted to look at how Krishna's going to be working on making plans to rectify the situation. And the devotees, of course, also feel these Vyavichari Bhavs. So they also make plans, just like Krishna's making plans to please his devotees, the devotees make plans to please Krishna, and they make plans also to please the other devotees. So what is the Vyavichari Bhav? Now, many times in our Hare Krishna movement, we use the word rasa in a kind of general sense to just mean the relationship with Krishna. And that's fine, but it's a little general. It's like for a while I lived on the island of Hawaii in the state of Hawaii, or I grew up in New York City in the state of New York. So if you're going to say New York, you could be referring to the whole state, or you could be referring to the city, or if you're going to say Hawaii, you could be referring to the whole state or a particular island. So if you're going to say rasa, you can refer in general to the 5 components of rasa coming together, or we also use rasa kind of loosely just to apply simply to the relationship with Krishna. Like we'll say someone has the rasa of friendship, or the rasa of conjugal love, or the rasa of servitorship. So that's accurate. It's not that that's inaccurate, but rasa also means a combination of 5 different elements. So one of them is our basic relationship, which Srila Rupa Goswami uses 2 synonyms, rati and sthāyi bhav. Bhav means an emotion, sthāyi means what stays. Srila Prabhupada translates this as continuous ecstasy. What is the basic relationship that we have with Krishna? So the Sanskrit words aren't so important, but to understand, everyone has an eternal basic relationship with Krishna. Krishna is my master, Krishna is my friend, Krishna is my child, Krishna is my beloved, or Krishna is just great. And there's something that stimulates that relationship, which is basically Krishna and Krishna's devotees who have a similar relationship to us. And there's a certain emotion of that relationship. Just like if I say, you're my friend, just like I hope that most of you here consider me to be your friend. I hope so. So there's this basic feeling of friendship. You know, you see someone who's your friend, like coming and seeing Mother Krishna Priya, I'm like, oh, my friend, I'm seeing my friend. And there's a feeling that we call friendship. Yes? How do you describe it exactly? It's kind of a feeling. Or you see a child and the child is so cute and you want to protect it and you want to take care. Oh, you have this parental kind of feeling. So that's a feeling. And then there's the 7 secondary rasas, which are things like anger, also a kind of lamentation, karuna rasa, right? Fear, disgust, which is always an interesting one that we can enjoy, disgust. Wonder, which Rupa Goswami says has to be there in any kind of rasa, and so forth. So there's the 5 primary and the 7 secondary. But then there's another 33 transitory emotions. So the sthāyi bhavs are basic, although the 7 secondary ones, there is some debate whether they're sthāyi bhavs or vyabhichari bhavs. There's some difference of opinion. But the vyabhichari bhavs are transitory. You know, so you have a basic feeling of friendship, but within that basic feeling of friendship, there could be lamentation. Does this make sense to everybody? Just like you all know, one of my grandsons died about a year ago. So I would see good friends of mine, and they would say, I'm so sorry that your grandson's died, and we might be crying together. This actually happened to me in Brisbane. So I was there on the anniversary of Chakra's passing. And on that day, one devotee artist who'd worked with us and learned to read, he gave me a laser-carved Sudarshan chakra. And I don't think he knew that my grandson had died or that his name was Chakra, but he gave it to me on the anniversary of my grandson's passing. And the people I was staying with, they had lost a daughter, and Chakra had been 24, their daughter had been 23, Balabi. She died in Vrindavan, also in a vehicular accident. And when I came back from the temple with this laser-carved Sudarshan chakra, and I said, wow, this was given to me on Chakra's passing, all 3 of us started to cry. We were all just crying, you know, thinking about our child and grandchild who had passed, and Vrajlakshmi and I were just embracing each other and just crying and crying and crying. So there was a mixture of friendship and lamentation. Is that clear to everybody? I was feeling friendship with Vrajlakshmi and her husband, Saki Roy, and we were also all feeling lamentation. Now, that lamentation isn't constant. It's not that every time I'm with those friends, I'm feeling lamentation. It comes and goes. So these are called vyabhichari bhavs or sanchari bhavs. And vyabhichari bhavs because they're moving against the sthāyi bhav while assisting it. They're pushing against it while helping it. And they're also called sanchari bhavs because they can kind of set the course of the sthāyi bhav. I mean, in this ordinary example that I just gave, so our shared lamentation actually deepened our friendship. Does this make sense to everybody? In the same way, if we have fun together, you go out with your friends and you have some fun with your friends, that deepens your relationship. But sometimes sharing an anxiety or sharing a lamentation or sharing even these so-called negative emotions. And Srila Rupa Goswami, near the end of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, talks quite a bit about how these emotions appear negative, but they're not. Now, he gives the example of the secondary staibhav of Karuna Rasa, which is also lamentation and compassion. And this, the deity of Karuna Rasa, does anyone know who the deity of Karuna Rasa is? Lord Ramachandra. So Srila Rupa Goswami says that the whole Ramayana is full of this lamentation. It's a tragedy. And yet, it's so full of bliss that Hanumanji, he's reciting this Ramayana eternally. Yes? He's always reciting this Ramayana. Just like for quite a while I've been integrating Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajana Rahasya into my experience of Kirtan, which is an incredible, incredible thing to do. And when I was in Hawaii talking with my god sister Chandrika, I was talking to her mostly how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is equating the different parts of the mantra to Krishna's various leelas at different times of the day, but also to the Shikshastaka and also to Shraddha to Prema. And she was asking me more about this and how to go more deeply into this, so I started reading Bhajana Rahasya again. And there Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is equating each two words of the mantra, especially with the Shikshastaka. He's equating it to the 8 parts of the Astakalila Lila and to the Shraddha to Prema, but primarily to the Shikshastaka. It's mostly a treatise on the Shikshastaka. And so in Kirtan, I've been working at, I'm still working on this, trying to meditate on the moods of the Shikshastaka verses with each of the parts of the mantra. And I'm really thinking about the 4th verse, right? Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitamba jagadisha kamay mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatad bhakti ahoitu hitwaye. And this janmani janmani ishware, which is kind of the essence, I'd say, of that verse, that all I want is to serve you perpetually. I don't want this to stop. Many years ago in Detroit, I had a brand new student to the Gurukul. Her parents were not even devotees, they were just Hindus. And I remember she came to a kirtan first day of school, and afterwards she came to me, she said, I never wanted it to end. So this mood, I just want to go on and on and on and on. I don't want my japa to end, I don't want the kirtan to end, I don't want my service to end, I don't want it to end looking at the deities. Sometimes we might feel I don't want to stop taking prasadam. I don't want to put down the Bhagavad Gita. I just want to go on and on and on and on and on. So this is the way Hanuman feels about the Ramayana, that he just wants to keep reading it. He just wants to keep telling this story over and over and over. And so if this lamentation was the opposite of happiness, why would he want to do that? That's Srila Rupa Goswami's argument. So this lamentation is a form of ecstasy. And again, we can have some idea from a mundane, because the science of rasa applies also in a way to our ordinary activities, that my shared lamentation with my friends deepened my relationship. It wasn't something, in one sense, a Vyavichari Bhav pushes against it, but in another sense, it directs it. So I wanted to look at how Srila Rupa Goswami defines this Vyavichari Bhav of lamentation. He says the causes of lamentation are a failure to attain one's desired object. And he gives the example of a devotee who's saying, I haven't yet attained Krishna consciousness. I keep doing the process, but I'm still so far away. And a failure to accomplish a task. And he gives an example of a devotee who wakes up from a dream where they were just about to pick flowers for Krishna and then they woke up. So then they're lamenting. Occurrence of a disaster. And he gives the example of Nanda Maharaj going to Mathura and seeing the elephant Kuvalayapita and thinking, oh no, why did I bring my son to Mathura? Now he's going to get killed by this elephant. And committing an offense. And he gives 2 examples. Lord Brahma stealing the cowherd boys and then coming back and seeing all the Vishnu forms and saying, why did I do this? And Akura stealing the Shaimantaka jewel. So in this particular case, I'm seeing the occurrence of a disaster. That Krishna is saying, there's a disaster. As we'll see in the following verses, he's going to make the point, well, Kali Yavan is here, and we're going to have to fight him, but Jarasandar's coming. And while we're busy fighting Kali Yavana, Jarasandar's going to attack it's going to be a disaster. We're not going to be able to protect the yadus from all sides, and also failure to accomplish a task. We won't be able to accomplish a task. So what are the symptoms? Symptoms are worry. And again, this is so interesting because the word for the spiritual world is Vaikunta. There's no worry. And we tend to think of happiness as freedom from worry. When people take a vacation, you know, they try to set up everything in their home before they leave, make sure that all their work is covered, and then they go to a place that, you know, nowadays it's a little hard, I suppose, but you unplug your computer, you unplug your phone, and you just go to the beach and you sit in the sun, and right, you just let go of all of your worries and anxieties. And we can say that worry is the basic principle of the material world. Because as long as you have a physical body and you're identifying with that body, you're going to be in a constant state of worry, at least at a low level. Isn't that our experience? Because our body is so fragile. All it takes is a little slip on the stairs and, you know, you're in your bed for weeks, right? Yes? You have to get around on crutches and get a wheelchair and all these things. Or just one little argument with somebody and then nobody likes you anymore. And, you know, there's so many things that can happen like that. So we think of, you know, worry. How is it worry? But there's also ecstatic worry. There's worry that's part of happiness. You're worrying about someone you love and it's part of love. Searching for a means of accomplishing the task. So that's exactly what Krishna is about to do. He's about to, what are we going to do? How are we going to deal with this? Searching for assistance. So we find Krishna's doing this. He's going to Balaram and saying, not only asking permission to do what he wants to do, but also asking for help. And then there can also be symptoms like weeping, moaning, heavy breathing, a change of color, and a drying of the mouth. So these are symptoms of various types of ecstasies. Just like we have also in the Shikshastika, right? When will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, crying constantly? When will my voice choke up? When will my hair stand on end? Right? There's symptoms like being stunned. And in fact, what happens with rasa is that when your basic relationship combines with these vyavichari bhavs, it creates a state in the heart called sattva, which is not the mode of goodness. And this state creates both purposeful service, like here, what am I going to do to take care of this? Can somebody help me? It creates things like that, which are called technically anubhavs, and it creates involuntary symptoms, such as heavy breathing and moaning and weeping, which are like forms of sattvika bhavs. They're not deliberate. They just happen. So there's different symptoms, right? We don't just feel friendship or we don't just feel lamentation. We actually do something. We do something voluntarily and we do something involuntarily. Mm-hmm. And Srila Rupa Goswami has a whole detailed explanation of these Vyavichari bhavs, how one can fit inside another, kind of like I get a picture of those Russian nesting dolls. Like inside of the lamentation, there can be worry and there can be concern and all these different things. And one emotion can cause another and they can combine with each other and there's a time that they start and they ebb and they flow. And then he also talks about how that there's varieties of experiencing these emotions depending on one's level of advancement and one's softness of the heart. And he also says that there's some, that if we're not really a pure devotee, we can get a shadow or a reflection of these emotions in our devotional service. And there's some that are coming from the love of the devotee for Krishna and enhance that love. And those can either come from the main relationship or the secondary relationship. There are some that start on their own, but they have some fragrance of the relationship. There's some that start on their own, but they add to the relationship. And then there are some that aren't related to one's relationship, like Arjuna's fear on seeing the universal form. Now, what does Krishna do when he's experiencing these emotions is he makes plans to please his devotees. So he's making a plan here to please everyone. Srila Prabhupada named my husband Prachitosa, which means one who pleases everyone. So Krishna's trying to please everyone. He's trying to please Lord Shiva. He's trying to please, who else? Gargamuni and the Yadus and Balaram. So he's trying to please all of them, so he's going to come up, I don't know if I, spoiler for the story, but he's going to mystically move everybody to Dwarka. Actually, when I was traveling, one of my friends was talking to me a lot about how Krishna moves everyone to Dwarka. She said, imagine if you just woke up in the morning and you were at your new home and everything was in its right place, and you didn't have to. Of course, Krishna doesn't always do that. When he took his family from Dwarka to Indraprastha, they actually did pack, and they actually did move in a huge entourage. Or, of course, in Vrindavan, when Krishna was a very young baby and his family moved, they moved in ox carts, and they were, but Dwarka was kind of a mystical thing. So he comes up with plans to please his devotee. He comes up with a plan so Lord Shiva's benediction is kept intact, Gargamuni's desire to scare the Yadus is intact, but the Yadus are all protected. Balaram has his place in assisting the pastimes and giving permission. So everyone is happy, and then the Yadus end up in this incredible safe place in the middle of the ocean. Of course, later, Krishna tells Rukmini that he's moved his family to Dwarka because he's a coward. He said, I didn't want to face all of these kings, so I just moved to Dwarka. Now, of course, when Srila Rupa Goswami is giving examples of these bhavas, he's giving examples of them from the devotee to Krishna rather than from Krishna to the devotee, but Krishna also experiences them. And when the devotee experiences this kind of lamentation as a bhava, as a form of ecstasy for Krishna, not as some mundane, perverted thing, they also make plans to try to please Krishna. How can I please Krishna? If we think of Srila Prabhupada's whole mission, right, he was lamenting the state of the world. He was lamenting how people didn't have Krishna consciousness, just hearing him talk about that this morning. How basically people in the world, they don't even know they need Krishna consciousness. They're not even aware that they're lacking it. They're going through their lives thinking, all I have to do is take care of my house, take care of my family, and make money and pay the bills and, have some entertainment and go to sleep and eat nice food. And that they think that that's all they need. They don't understand their underlying problem. And he was lamenting the state of the world. And for that, Srila Prabhupada made this plan with great difficulty. I'm hitting the end of my 60s. Think of Prabhupada coming at 70. It was harder for me to travel this time than it was before COVID. Just a few years of getting older, and it was definitely harder. And thinking of Prabhupada traveling, and Prabhupada didn't travel on an airplane, he traveled on a ship, and not only was a ship, it was a cargo ship. And he was seasick. If you've ever been seasick, it's one of the most hellish experiences. And then he comes with money that he can't change. And he doesn't really know anybody. I mean, there's the son of an acquaintance. But he made this plan. How am I going to relieve the anxiety of Krishna and my Guru Maharaj? And Srila Rupa Goswami also says at the end of the section on Vyavichari Bhavs that these different emotions are also felt by the devotees in relationship to other devotees. So Srila Prabhupada was not only thinking, how can I bring pleasure to the Lord to save all these fallen souls, but he's also thinking, how can I serve my Guru Maharaj? I had a talk with Gopal yesterday. We were talking about guru-disciple relationships. And I was saying the problem is that I'll never be as good of a disciple as Srila Prabhupada is as good of a guru. And then he said, well, and we'll never be as good of a disciple as Srila Prabhupada is as a disciple to his guru. And I'm like, oh my God, absolutely. How Srila Prabhupada was so devoted to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. My guru wants me to preach in English to English-speaking people. He wants to take Krishna consciousness to the West. And for that, I'm going to dedicate everything. So this is the mood of the devotee. Their anxiety is not about, will my body get sick and will I lose my money? And these things come and go, and they're all, what does Krishna say? Right? It says, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Don't worry about gain and safety. Be established in the self. Why? Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham, because I'm taking care of that. So the devotee doesn't have those material anxieties, and therefore they're already in a Vaikuntha consciousness, but they're having transcendental anxieties. And what's so fascinating is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He not only has these transcendental anxieties to please his devotee as Krishna, but he's simultaneously enjoying the transcendental anxieties of the devotee to please Krishna, because that is full of bliss. And therefore one wants to relish this, janme, one wants to relish this over and over and over without stopping. So Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say that the way we conquer lust is that we make plans to please Krishna and Guru. Very nice, he uses the word kama, that we conquer our kama, we conquer our lust, which is mostly in plans to enjoy this world. I'm going to enjoy it this way, I'm going to enjoy it this way, I'm going to enjoy it this way. How can we don't have to worry about that. Not that we don't do anything, it's not that we don't go to work, and it's not that we don't pay the bills, but we don't do that with anxiety. And instead we try to cultivate this transcendental mood of sweet anxiety. So questions, comments, additions, subtractions? Yes, Tristan. Oh, not Garge himself. Oh, thank you. Thank you. As Vaisheshika Prabhu says, I live to be corrected. Thank you. Yes. Yes. He's also. Thank you. Anything else? You wanted to make the same correction? Thank you. One of the nicest things I found in life is Vaisheshika Prabhu's mantra. It's an antidote to the false ego. I live to be corrected. That's what I thought also. Oh. Okay. So this Kalyavana is Gargamuni's grandson. All these decades, I always thought it was Gargamuni. Thank you. I'm so glad I got this, and I got this. Thank you very much. That I feel a lot better now. It always bothered me. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, sometimes the sons go bad. Even Krishna has sons that go bad, like Bhaumasura, or like me. Right, but it was not a very good response to getting teased. I'm getting teased, so therefore let me cause trouble to the people who tease me. I mean, that's pretty determined to get back at somebody who insults you. And said by our resident who has a degree in psychology, it was a deep emotional issue. Well, then how did he father the child? Oh, so this is really interesting. So they called him a eunuch because he was actually impotent. They weren't just like, it wasn't just like some... I see. Because that's a typical insult between males, He wanted to prove that he wasn't impotent. Ah. And here's Maharaj. I was just telling you, Varian, how Maharaj is the epitome of compassion and empathy. So here you're showing such empathy for Gargya. But it didn't turn out very well. It wasn't the right way to deal with his trauma. Yes. It was at the wrong samskara. Interesting. It was, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, we have some of those in the Shastras where people intentionally try to have a demon. Like Vitrasura. Or you have, what's his name? The son of the king of Kashi. What's his name? Sudakshana. He also intentionally created a demon. So yeah, they also do like that. Well, thank you. That could have been a whole other class. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.